They're upset because you never called them again. They're hurt, offended, and puzzled because your silence spoke truths your words never could. They can't comprehend why the one who once endured their chaos, manipulation, and inconsistency suddenly disappeared without explanation. But let me tell you, your exit wasn't weakness. It was strength. It was growth. It was divine separation directed by God Himself. Sometimes God will quiet your voice so He can speak through your absence. Sometimes He'll pull you out of certain spaces, not from hate, but from protection. He's guarding your peace, your purpose, your spiritual growth. You didn't stop calling out of pride. You stopped because you finally listened to God. You realized that peace is worth more than pretense, that loyalty to God outweighs loyalty to confusion. There are moments when God leads you away from people once vital to your story. One morning you'll wake up and feel no pull to reach out, no need to explain, no urge to prove your worth. That isn't coldness, it's clarity. That's maturity in motion. God doesn't want you chasing relationships that drain your soul, lower your value, or derail your destiny. Some were meant for a single chapter, not your entire book. They're angry because they've lost control, because you're no longer reacting to their bait, falling into their emotional traps, or feeding the ego that once thrived on your attention. They're angry because God healed you. God freed you. God gave you peace. No apology could match. Now your silence is shouting, declaring that you've grown, you've changed, and you refuse to dance to the rhythm of manipulation. My friend, when God elevates you, He often isolates you. You'll begin to see true intentions once you stop giving constant access. Not everyone who stood beside you was truly standing with you. Some were near because your light nourished their darkness. And when you started protecting your light, they labeled you distant, arrogant, or selfish. They'll twist your growth into pride, your boundaries into betrayal, your peace into rejection, but never let their opinions drag you back into their chaos. You owe no one an explanation for choosing peace over poison. You owe no apology for refusing mistreatment. God never called you to revive relationships He already buried. Some are angry because you obeyed when God said enough. You can't keep reopening what heaven has closed. Your silence isn't cruelty, it's obedience. There's a holy reason your spirit grew quiet, a divine reason you stopped chasing those who never valued you. God is teaching you the sacred discipline of separation, not out of bitterness but out of wisdom. You've learned that love doesn't mean tolerating disrespect, and peace will always cost you less than pretending to belong where grace has already moved you on. You've learned that forgiveness doesn't mean foolishness. You've learned that peace sometimes looks like distance, and that wisdom came straight from God. They can talk, they can mock, they can accuse, but they can't undo what God has already healed. The truth is, some people liked you better when you were broken. They were more comfortable when you doubted yourself, when you needed their validation to feel worthy. They preferred the version of you that stayed quiet, tolerated disrespect, and accepted crumbs while calling it love. But the moment you found your strength, the moment you stopped answering every call and entertaining every argument, you became a threat. They're not upset because you stopped calling. They're upset because they lost control. They're angry because your silence revealed what your words never could. When you stop chasing, truth starts speaking. You begin to see who was genuine and who was merely convenient. God created that distance not to wound you, but to wake you. Because peace can't grow in constant chaos. Sometimes God uses silence as His sharpest instrument of revelation. He'll quiet your spirit, pull you back, and let you observe how people behave when they no longer have access to your presence. Suddenly you see clearly who valued you, and who used you, who loved you, and who only loved what you offered. That's why your absence feels so loud. It exposes everything your presence once concealed. You were always the one reaching out, the one fixing what they broke, the one saying, "Let's talk," when they didn't even deserve your kindness. And God saw it all. He saw how you poured into people who never poured back, how you stayed loyal to those who betrayed you behind closed doors. Then God said, "Enough." He said, "Now I will show them that the one they overlooked is the one I have anointed." When you stopped calling, you didn't lose anyone who truly cared. You lost the ones who only loved the benefits of being near you. That's not loss. That's divine pruning. God removes people not to leave you empty, but to make room for those who can walk with you into your next chapter. You can't take everyone where you're going. Some people were lessons, not lifelong companions. Some relationships were temporary classrooms where your soul learned resilience, discernment, and strength. They'll gossip. They'll call you fake. They'll say you've changed, but let them talk. What they call change, God calls growth. What they call distance, God calls deliverance. What they call silence, God calls strategy. You're not avoiding people, you're aligning with purpose. You're not being prideful, you're being rebuilt. When God prepares to bless your life, He often starts by subtracting, not adding. He removes what hinders before revealing what's meant to stay. And though it hurts to release what's familiar, never forget, peace has a price. You can't keep everyone and still keep your calling. You can't pursue divine purpose while clinging to toxic comfort. God had to separate you so you could finally see what He was shaping for you. Because silence isn't emptiness. It's sacred space where God restores your vision, strengthens your spirit, and prepares your heart for what's next. It's in the silence that God whispers truth into your heart. When you stopped reaching out, you gave Him space to lift you higher. While they were talking about you, God was speaking to you. While they questioned your loyalty, He was strengthening your character. Don't regret the distance and don't grieve the absence. Every person who walked away, every call you didn't make, every message you never sent, it all served a divine purpose. God pulled you apart to preserve the purity of your journey. You cannot step into who God designed you to be while still trying to explain yourself to those unwilling to understand your growth. They want you to apologize for setting boundaries, to feel guilty for evolving. But you didn't abandon anyone. You simply followed God's leading. You chose peace, and peace never misleads. When you choose peace, God stands beside you. You owe it to your purpose to guard that peace fiercely. Stop reopening old wounds to prove you've healed. Stop calling those who only remember you when they're in need. Stop explaining your silence to those who never respected your voice. God saw what was said in secret. He heard the conversations that excluded you, and He said, "My child, step back. I will fight this battle for you." That's why your silence carries power. It's covered by divine defense. You no longer fight with words. You let God handle it. You no longer chase validation. You let God vindicate you. You no longer beg for closure. You let God close the door. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. That's not arrogance, it's spiritual maturity. There's holiness in walking away quietly. It confuses the enemy, silences gossip, and creates room for God to move. Sometimes the greatest sermon you'll ever preach is the one spoken through peace, not words. Let your peace speak louder than any explanation. People may label you heartless, but God knows your heart. He's seen the tears you shed before you stopped calling. He knows the guilt you wrestled with when letting go. He knows the war inside you between staying loyal and staying sane. And because he knows, he will reward you for your obedience. Let them be offended. Let them misunderstand. You're not accountable for their version of your story. You're accountable for living in truth. And the truth is, you've outgrown who you used to be. You've healed from what once held you captive. You've matured in silence. You no longer crave attention. You crave alignment. You no longer chase approval. You chase peace. That kind of growth intimidates the insecure. The moment you stopped explaining, defending, and seeking validation, that was the moment your soul found freedom. You stopped calling them, but you started calling on God. And that changed everything. Because when you talk less to people and more to Him, your life begins to shift. He starts refining your steps, reordering your focus, and restoring your peace. You're not bitter. You're blessed. You're not distant. You're protected. You're not rude. You're redeemed by growth. They can't understand because they're still trapped in the noise you walked away from. But don't worry. One day they'll see. One day they'll realize that losing access to you wasn't rejection. It was divine correction. Keep walking quietly. Keep choosing peace. Keep trusting God's separation. You're not missing out on anything meant for you. What belongs to you will always find its way, even in silence. And what isn't meant for you will fade no matter how many times you reach out. So let God decide who stays and who goes. Let Him handle those who misinterpret your silence. Your peace is the evidence that you're walking in alignment with Him. The ones meant to stay in your life will honor your growth, not envy it. True love understands space. Real connection honors stillness. But false loyalty always demands your attention while refusing to earn your trust. There comes a sacred moment when your silence becomes more powerful than any speech you could give. When you stop explaining, stop proving, and stop trying to make people understand what only God can reveal. That's not pride, it's peace. That's not arrogance, it's awareness. It's that divine point where your discernment sharpens and your spirit refuses to tolerate what no longer fits God's plan for your life. And even though some may be angry, confused, or offended that you never called again, the truth is, it's not about the call, it's about control. They're not upset because you stopped speaking. They're upset because your silence means they can no longer manipulate your spirit. They're not missing your words. They're unsettled because your absence exposes their motives. God often removes you quietly from certain people, not to harm them, but to protect you. Not everyone can handle the version of you that's connected to heaven. Some only knew the wounded version of you, the one who tolerated disrespect and tried to repair what God already dismantled. But when God renews your mind, you become unrecognizable to those who once thrived on your brokenness. When you stop calling, you start hearing God more clearly. You learn that peace doesn't come from crowds around you, but from Christ within you. The deeper you grow in spirit, the less noise you need. The more you understand divine purpose, the less approval you crave. God shows you that silence isn't emptiness, it's alignment. In those quiet seasons, He resets your heart, purifies your intentions, and restores your identity. They don't know what God whispered to you in those secret moments. They didn't see the tears that watered your transformation. They don't know how many times you almost reached out, but God stopped you. He said, "No, my child. This time let me fight. This time don't explain. This time don't return. Just trust me. And you did. You released it. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started trusting. That's spiritual maturity. Understanding that silence is sometimes the loudest form of obedience. Some relationships end the moment your spirit awakens, because when God opens your eyes, He also removes the masks around you, revealing who truly walked beside you and who merely stood watching. You start to realize that not everyone who smiled was sincere. Not everyone who called you family truly meant it. Not everyone who applauded you actually wanted to see you rise. But that awareness doesn't make you bitter. It makes you wiser. God removes illusions to reveal truth, and truth always requires separation. They're angry because they've lost access to your peace. They missed the version of you that always answered, always agreed, always tried to mend what was slowly breaking you. But now you've changed. You've learned to pray before reacting, to pause before responding, to seek God before seeking closure. That level of growth unsettles those who still live in emotional chaos. Your calmness disrupts their confusion, and your peace threatens their dysfunction. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your silence. God sees your heart, and that's enough. When you walked away, you didn't betray anyone. You obeyed divine direction. Some people were never meant to journey into your destiny because they were only assigned to your past. Holding on to them becomes disobedience when God is calling you forward. It hurts. Yes, you'll question yourself. You'll miss certain memories. But in time, you'll see that the distance that once wounded you was the very thing that healed you. When God separates you, it's not rejection, it's redirection. It means He heard conversations you didn't hear, saw motives you couldn't discern, and recognized traps you didn't notice. He knows what's being planned in secret, so He quietly moves you out of harm's way before the storm arrives. And though the silence feels strange at first, one day you'll realize God saved you without needing your consent. That's why you must never apologize for obeying His instructions. They're upset because you never called again, but maybe that's because God never asked you to. Maybe He wanted you to stop chasing, stop proving, stop striving, and start resting. He wanted you to see that not everyone deserves your access. He wanted you to discover real peace. Not the kind that pleases people, but the kind that trusts God completely. Let them misjudge your silence. God understands your heart. Let them call you cold. God knows your compassion. Let them label you selfish. God knows the cost you paid to protect your spirit. The truth is, sometimes the most loving act is to let people go. Sometimes love requires distance, so others can confront their own behavior. When God teaches you silence, He's also teaching you strength. Because silence isn't weakness, it's discipline. It takes divine power to hold your tongue when you could respond, to stay still when you're right, to remain quiet when you know the truth. That's not weakness, it's mastery. It's walking in holy calm, knowing that God will speak for you far louder than your words ever could. And when He does, those who misread your silence will witness your vindication. Because when God fights for you, He doesn't do it through noise. He does it through undeniable evidence. He blesses you before those who doubted. He elevates you in front of those who tried to silence you. That's why your quietness carries power. It's backed by divine presence. God doesn't need your words to prove your worth. He needs your obedience to prove your faith. And every time you choose peace over argument, prayer over panic, and silence over shouting, you're declaring, God, I trust you more than I trust my emotions. That's where divine favor flows within the calm heart that waits on God instead of reacting to people. When you stop calling them, you create space for God to call you higher. You leave behind conversations that no longer nourish your spirit. You stop defending what God already delivered you from. You begin to see that not every connection was meant to continue. Some were there to sharpen your discernment, some to reveal your resilience, and some to teach you the beauty of peace. After walking through counterfeit companionship disguised as care, they'll talk, they'll twist the truth, they'll whisper, you've changed, and they're right, you have. You changed from being a people pleaser to being a God listener. You changed from seeking validation to seeking revelation. You changed from chasing approval to chasing purpose. And that kind of transformation will always unsettle those who depended on your insecurity. But let them talk their noise. Cannot silence what heaven has already decreed over your destiny. Every time you hold your peace, heaven applauds. Every time you resist the urge to call back, to explain or to defend, your spirit grows stronger and your confidence becomes rooted in God's presence. Because once you learn that your worth isn't tied to who stays or who leaves, you step into true freedom. Let the world misinterpret you as long as God understands you. Let them call you distant as long as heaven calls you disciplined. Because in the end, only one opinion matters, God's. You don't need their approval when divine peace already guards your heart. You don't need their acceptance when you're already loved by the one who designed you. One day the same people who were upset that you never called will witness your glow, your growth, your elevation, and realize it was never personal. It was spiritual. It wasn't rejection. It was redirection. You simply outgrew the noise and stepped into divine stillness. And in that stillness you found something deeper than friendship. You found God's voice. There comes a sacred hour in every life when God appoints silence as the teacher. When no one calls, no one checks in, no one seems to notice. And in that quiet you begin to sense His hand rearranging everything. That silence isn't punishment. It's preparation. God removes the noise so you can finally hear His truth. And that truth begins with the revelation that your peace was never meant to depend on anyone's attention. When you stop calling, you stop chasing approval. You begin to realize how much time you wasted trying to prove your worth to people who were never qualified to define it. That realization is holy, because God never asked you to beg for love, to plead for validation, or to fight for space in hearts that couldn't hold you. He said, be still and know that I am God. That means your stillness isn't weakness. It's faith. It's quiet confidence that what God removes, He replaces with something better. They're upset because your silence made them face themselves. When you stop calling, they could no longer hide behind your grace. They were forced to confront their own behavior, then neglect their words. And that discomfort is conviction. Some people are only at ease when you're the one apologizing, explaining, and overextending. But God said, enough now. Peace is your response, and stillness is your strength. But when you finally stop, when you finally choose silence over struggle, they lose their grip. That's when they start painting you as the problem. Don't be shocked when peace disturbs those who live off chaos. Don't be surprised when your calm spirit unsettles people addicted to confusion. When God places his peace upon you, your presence alone convicts those who resist change. That's why they gossip. That's why they twist your story. But it's not your assignment to defend yourself. It's your responsibility to stay aligned. Because when you walk with God, he handles what your words never could. There are seasons when God will allow people to walk away so you can discover the strength of standing with only him. Those are the seasons that shape your backbone. The moment you learn your value doesn't decrease just because someone stopped recognizing it. You realize love from people may shift, but God's love never does. You learn that solitude with God is not isolation, it's restoration. It's a sacred reset, a divine decluttering of everything that once clouded your spirit. They may call you distant, but they can't perceive what God is building in your stillness. They can't see the reconstruction happening within you. God is rebuilding your confidence, teaching you to rely on peace instead of attention. He's showing you how to recognize connections that fuel your growth versus those that drain your soul. He's teaching you that silence isn't a lack of love, it's the presence of boundaries. And when you've walked with God long enough, you stop chasing explanations. You stop craving closure. You stop debating over right and wrong because you understand that peace isn't born from being understood. It's born from obedience. When God says go, you go. When he says be quiet, you stay still. When he says move forward, you move, even if no one claps, even if no one comprehends, because your loyalty is to God, not to people's expectations. That's true maturity. When you no longer react to every opinion, respond to every message, or justify what only heaven can explain, you owe no one an update on your healing. You owe no one a speech about your silence. Let them think what they will. God sees your motives. God knows the sincerity of your heart. And that's all that matters. They're upset because your silence stripped away their ability to provoke you. They were accustomed to your emotional reactions, to your desperation to make peace, to your need to fix what they kept breaking. But now you've learned to walk away with peace instead of pain. You've learned to let God defend you instead of using your tongue. And that kind of strength shakes those who depend on chaos to feel powerful. But don't shatter your silence to explain your calm. Let your stillness testify that God is at work. Every time you choose quiet over conflict, heaven marks it as strength. Every time you hold your tongue when you could expose the truth, God honors your discipline, and that restraint becomes your greatest weapon of wisdom. Every time you choose to walk away when pride tells you to fight, you prove that your spirit is led by peace, not ego. That's what distinguishes the wise from the wounded. The wise let God vindicate, while the wounded chase victory through arguments. There's a quiet beauty in allowing people to wonder why you're no longer reachable. You don't have to announce that your priorities shifted or that your spirit evolved. God already knows. And when the timing aligns, your peace will speak volumes louder than your explanations ever could. Because eventually silence becomes its own sermon. It preaches the power of stillness, showing that not everyone who steps back is bitter. Some step away because they finally found what others distracted them from God himself. They'll say you've grown cold, but they don't realize your silence is saturated with prayer. They don't know you've been talking to God in the very hours they expected you to justify yourself. They can't comprehend that your isolation has been your elevation. You've withdrawn from noise to receive divine instruction. And in that hidden space, God is unveiling what you were too busy to see. There's a reason he didn't let you return. A reason the desire to reconnect faded. He doesn't want you repeating lessons that already refined you. The silence wasn't an accident. It was an answer. God was saying, you've outgrown this chapter. Stop trying to resurrect what I've already removed. When He calls you to peace, anything that disturbs that peace becomes a threat to your destiny. Sometimes the strongest act of faith is remaining silent when everything in you wants to speak to trust that God heard what they said, saw how they treated you, and knows you don't need to defend yourself. Truth doesn't need a lawyer. It just needs time. And with time, God always reveals what was hidden, exposes intentions, and restores dignity to the quiet ones. So don't let their anger make you doubt your obedience. Don't let their gossip make you feel guilty for growing. Don't let their absence tempt you to return. The very people who misjudge your silence today will honor your peace tomorrow. The same voices that mocked your stillness will one day witness your elevation. Because when God is with you, silence is not the finale. It's the turning point. Guard your peace like treasure. Don't exchange it for validation. Don't let emotional noise drag you back into conversations God already ended. You owe no one constant access to your heart. Protect what He's entrusted to you. Your calm, your clarity, your communion with Him. Because once peace enters your life, it becomes your sacred duty to preserve it fiercely. And remember this, not everyone will understand your silence, but everyone will witness the fruit of it. When you stop calling them, you begin to hear God. When you stop chasing them, you begin to walk with God. When you stop explaining yourself, you begin to see what only God can do. So stay still, stay grounded, and stay faithful. Because while they're upset that you never called, God is orchestrating a future that will speak louder than any word you could have said. Your silence isn't the end of connection. It's the beginning of divine direction. Let them be angry. You're at peace. Let them misunderstand you. One day they'll realize you didn't walk away to erase them. You walked away to encounter God. And that will always be the most powerful reason of all. Sometimes silence becomes the greatest sermon you'll ever preach, and your absence begins to speak louder than any explanation ever could. There are people who only valued you when you needed them. But the moment you stopped calling, stopped reaching, they saw that you weren't weak. You were simply growing. They're not angry because you hurt them. They're angry because your peace no longer depends on their presence. They're upset because your silence turned into strength and your distance became divine protection. God didn't pull you away to isolate you. He pulled you away to elevate you. When you stopped calling, you stopped feeding what was draining you. You stopped watering weeds that were choking your joy. You stopped giving attention to people who never offered understanding. And that's when God begins revealing who truly belonged. It's not always rejection, it's redirection. Sometimes the very call you didn't make was the call that saved your soul. Because when you stop reaching toward what hurt you, you start reaching upward to the one who heals you. There comes a sacred moment when God whispers, "Be still." Not because you're wrong, but because your words are no longer needed in that battle. You've explained enough. You've apologized enough. You've tried to make peace with those who thrive on conflict. And God says, "Let me handle what your voice cannot fix." So when you stop calling, you're not being cold, you're being wise. You're obeying the gentle command of a God who removes you from chaos so He can refill you with peace. Do you know why they're angry? Because your peace stripped away their control. Your silence revealed their intentions. When you used to chase, they felt significant. When you stopped, they realized it wasn't love, it was dependency. They were feeding on your compassion, and when you stepped back, you cut off their supply. Now they must face their emptiness without the energy you once provided. God is teaching you something sacred here. Not everyone who loses you deserves another chance to find you. There's divine wisdom in distance. Sometimes God separates you from people so your spirit can finally breathe again. You can't heal in the same environment that broke you. You can't grow in the same soil that refused to nurture your roots. So God transplants you, He moves you, replants you in peace. That's why you stopped calling. That's why you walked away. Not because love faded, but because clarity came. God showed you that peace isn't found in constant communication, but in divine connection. And when you follow that call, people will misunderstand. They'll whisper that you've changed. They'll label you proud. They'll say you think you're above them. But what they won't acknowledge is how many nights you cried in silence. How many prayers you prayed for direction. How many times you begged God for peace before He gave you distance. They'll talk about how weary your soul became from trying to mend what was never yours to fix. God pulled you apart for purification. Sometimes He conceals you so He can heal you. Sometimes He silences the crowd so you can finally hear His whisper. That's why the quiet feels so heavy, because it's holy. It's not loneliness, it's preparation. God is rewiring your heart, teaching you to rely completely on Him. When you stop calling those who fail to value you, you're not losing people. You're losing noise, and when the noise fades, you begin to hear the still, gentle voice of God saying, "Now let me guide you." There's a reason peace feels strange at first. You've lived among storms so long that stillness feels unfamiliar. But God never called you to comfort. He called you to clarity. The same ones who drained you will now accuse you of being distant. What they don't realize is you're not distant. You're delivered. You no longer need validation from those who couldn't handle your elevation. When God promotes you, your circle will shrink, not from rejection but refinement. And yes, they're angry you never called again. But that's revelation for them, not your responsibility. They're upset because your silence exposed truths they didn't want to face. When you kept calling, you were covering their insecurity. When you kept chasing, you were feeding their pride. But now your absence has uncovered what your presence once concealed. That's divine strategy. God sometimes wields silence like a sword, not to harm but to free you from what kept you bound. Let them be angry. Let them misread your peace. Let them talk, because God sees your silence and understands your intent. You didn't walk away out of arrogance. You walked away out of obedience. You didn't stop calling because you stopped caring. You stopped because you started healing. God overheard conversations you didn't, discerned motives you couldn't, and decided it was time to detach you from what couldn't go where He's taking you. What you thought was loss was actually rescue. Your peace is not up for debate. You can't beg people to accept what God has already commanded. When He says enough, it's not a suggestion. It's an instruction. Stop reaching for those who bring confusion. Stop calling those who never reach back. God wants you to conserve your strength for what's ahead, not waste it on what's behind. Some people were never meant to stay. They were meant to shape you. Their role was temporary, but your calling is eternal. There's a new version of you being birthed in the quiet. Every time you choose not to react, you're choosing to rise. Every time you choose peace over proving your point, you're stepping deeper into God's purpose. You're learning that human validation is nothing compared to divine approval. And once you taste true peace, you'll never chase attention again. That's why they're angry, because they no longer control your emotions. You've placed your heart back in the hands of the one who made it. Your growth unsettles those who once profited from your weakness. When God fortifies your spirit, your silence becomes a storm they can't withstand. They'll call it pride, but God calls it protection. They'll call it arrogance, but God calls it anointing. You're not walking away, you're walking upward. You're leaving behind familiar pain to enter divine peace. And if they can't handle your stillness, they were never prepared for your purpose. So don't you dare feel guilty for your distance. God established that boundary. It wasn't born from pride, but from protection. And when he draws a line, it's never to punish you, it's to preserve you. You can forgive without reconnecting, love from afar without reopening old wounds, wish them well without stepping back into the fire he already pulled you from. That's not bitterness, it's wisdom. Because not everyone who claps is genuine, and not everyone who misses you means you well. Sometimes the most powerful response is silence. Let God defend what you refuse to explain. Let your peace speak louder than their rumors. Let your absence remind them that access to you is a privilege, not a right. When you start walking in peace, you stop chasing explanations and start trusting divine revelation. God will uncover truth in his timing. You don't owe clarity to those committed to misunderstanding you. Your silence isn't weakness. It's warfare wrapped in wisdom. And one day they'll remember your patience, your kindness, your grace, even when they took it for granted. In that moment, they'll realize the one they underestimated was the one God had chosen. Then God will set a table before you, not to shame them, but to display that his favor follows obedience. You don't need to call them back. God will handle the conversations you never could. And when it's all over, you'll look back and see that every unanswered message, every quiet night, every season of distance was part of his protection plan. What you thought was rejection was redirection. God wasn't punishing you. He was preparing you. You didn't lose people. You lost distractions. Every time you walked away quietly, you were saying, God, I trust you more than I trust my emotions. And that trust became the foundation of your peace. They're angry because your silence holds power. They're upset because you stopped serving their comfort, but you've learned something sacred. You don't have to answer every noise when you're aligned with divine purpose. You don't have to explain your calm when God has already justified your path. Walking with God teaches you that closure isn't always a conversation. In its clarity, the kind that whispers, you did your part. Now let me do mine. Let them assume. Let them twist the story. Let them talk in corners where God isn't present. Because while they're gossiping, God is promoting you. While they're analyzing your silence, he's amplifying your destiny. And while they're still angry about a call you never made, he's preparing a future they'll witness, but won't comprehend. What's coming next is peace beyond understanding. You don't owe explanations for obeying his instructions. You don't need to justify your healing. When God says let go, release completely. When he says be still, don't move. When he says move on, don't look back. There's power in stillness, wisdom in distance, and protection in peace. You are not heartless. You are healed. You are not detached. You are directed. So walk boldly in your peace. Guard your spirit. Keep your circle pure. And if they're still upset you never called again, let them be. Because one day they'll see it was never pride. It was purpose. It wasn't ego. It was elevation. God removed you so he could raise you. And when you stand in the place he prepared, You'll thank him for every door he shut, every person he separated, and every call you never made, because sometimes the loudest faith is found in silence. The quietest yes to God is the firmest. No to everything else. Keep walking, keep trusting, keep your peace. What's ahead is far greater than anything left behind. And when they see the light of peace on your face, they'll understand you didn't stop calling because you stopped caring. You stopped calling because you finally started listening to God. My friend, listen carefully. What God is about to unfold in your life will go far beyond human logic. The doors that are about to swing open will leave even you in astonishment. God is preparing to do something that won't just bless you. It will completely redefine the way you perceive provision, wealth, and divine favor. I'm here to declare that God is about to surprise your finances. He's getting ready to overflow your life in such magnitude that you'll fall to your knees and whisper, "Only God could have done this." For too long you've stared at your account, examined your situation, and felt the weight of scarcity. You've been faithful, you've prayed, you've waited, and still heaven seems silent. But hear me, God's silence is never his absence. When God is quiet, he's not ignoring you. He's orchestrating something extraordinary. Often he conceals his greatest gifts behind seasons of testing. Sometimes he delays to deepen your faith because what he's preparing to release is far greater than anything you've ever carried before. There are divine seasons when God watches you sow in tears before you reap in laughter. You've been sowing your time, your energy, your belief, your obedience. You refused shortcuts when others compromised. You stayed true when dishonesty seemed easier. You chose integrity over convenience, and God saw every bit of it. Every hidden act of faith, every silent offering, every private tear has been recorded in heaven. And now the season of reward is approaching. God never forgets the faithful. He is not a man who lies, nor one who breaks his word. When he says he will bless those who trust him, he fulfills it. There's a divine shaking taking place right now. The same God who lifts the humble from the dust and exalts the overlooked from the ashes is turning his gaze toward you. People may have passed you by, but heaven has not. They may have misjudged your worth, but God has been keeping a perfect record. While you wept in secret, he was designing your increase. While you wondered how to stretch what you had, he was multiplying what's in your hands. Don't underestimate the strength of obedience in a dry season. Many desire overflow, but few remain steadfast when things seem empty. Yet you endured, you kept giving when it cost you. You kept believing when logic said stop. You kept speaking faith when everything around you screamed lack. And God has witnessed it all. There comes a moment when the seed of faith collides with divine timing. And in that instant, miracles erupt. You are standing right on the edge of that breakthrough. God is not restricted by your finances, your job, or your connections. He doesn't need approval from any system to bless you. He owns it all. Every resource, every hidden treasure, every opportunity you think is unreachable belongs to him. When he moves, he can use any person, any situation, any channel. He can send provision from unexpected places, turn hearts in your favor, erase debts, open doors, and cause blessings to overflow. You may not understand how, but you don't need to. You only need to believe with all your heart that God is your ultimate provider. Provision doesn't always arrive the way you imagine. Sometimes it flows through the most unexpected channels, through a sudden idea, a divine connection, or a spark of inspiration that feels heaven-sent. That's the unmistakable hand of God at work. He knows precisely where you are and exactly what you need, and when he moves swiftly. One moment you're struggling to hold things together, and the next everything transforms. That's what happens when divine timing collides with divine favor. Listen closely. Your present hardship is not your ending. It's the foundation for your next miracle. God often uses lack to teach you stewardship, allows pressure to produce faith, and lets certain doors close so he can open greater one. He lets you taste the sting of limitation so that when abundance arrives, gratitude flows effortlessly. God is not punishing you. He's preparing you. You're being trained for the blessing that's on its way. There's a reason the waiting has been long and the process intense. The delay wasn't rejection. It was refinement. God has been building endurance, wisdom, humility, and unshakable faith within you. Because the magnitude of the blessing coming your way requires a mature spirit to carry it. You cannot hold new wealth with an old mindset. Nor can you walk into overflow with the same fear that lived in your season of lack. That's why God had to refine you first. When God blesses, he doesn't just add, he multiplies. And when he multiplies, he doesn't need approval from anyone. Very soon there will come a moment when you'll look at your finances, your work, your home, and realize that only God could have done it. It will be purely divine. People will ask how, and your answer will be simple: God. But remember, this blessing isn't meant for comfort alone. God never blesses you just to make you comfortable. He blesses you to make you a blessing. He pours into your hands so you can pour into others. That's divine circulation. When you give freely, God keeps the river flowing. When you hold back, the flow stops. If you want God to astonish your finances, prepare your heart to handle overflow with gratitude and generosity. The law of multiplication only works when the heart is clean. You cannot expect abundance while carrying bitterness, jealousy, or greed. God blesses clean hands and pure intentions. So before the financial shift arrives, cleanse your spirit from comparison. Stop focusing on what others have and center your faith on what God is building in you. Your blessing carries your name. Your miracle will be the proof of your obedience. What God has prepared for you cannot be delayed, stolen, or destroyed as long as you keep walking in integrity. Too many people hinder their own breakthrough by clinging to fear. Fear of losing, fear of lack, fear of uncertainty. But faith and fear cannot coexist. If you truly want to see God move in your finances, believe that he alone is your source, not your job, not your income, not any person. God and God alone is your provider. When you shift your confidence from people to God, you step into the realm of supernatural increase. You must begin to speak life over your finances. Stop agreeing with lack. Stop declaring defeat. Begin declaring what God has already promised. Say, I am favored, I am sustained, I am walking in divine abundance, because your words carry power. They are living seeds. What you speak consistently is what you draw into your life. If you speak fear, fear multiplies. If you speak faith, faith expands. Don't let your current circumstance shape your confession. Let your confession reshape your circumstance. God doesn't respond to frustration. He responds to faith. You can weep, but let your tears still carry belief. You can admit your pain, but never question his power. The same God who rained man from heaven, who brought water out of a barren rock, who sustained generations in the wilderness, he has not changed. He can feed you in a famine. He can elevate you in recession. He can create a path where none exists. You are not depending on the economy. You are anchored in eternity. Many of you right now are standing on the edge of a miracle without realizing it. You've been saying, I don't see anything happening. But faith doesn't require sight, it requires trust. And when you trust, you release heaven's movement in your life. Faith shifts mountains. Faith unlocks favor. Faith transforms impossibility into testimony. The very moment your belief aligns with God's word, heaven begins rearranging things in your favor. That phone call you've been waiting for, that open door you've been praying about, that approval you've been hoping for. God is working behind the scenes. What appears delayed is actually divine timing. What looks impossible is simply the stage for God's glory. Even if you feel like you're at your lowest point, that's often the exact place where miracles are birthed. When all you have left is faith, that's when God shows himself strongest. Hear me clearly. Your faith has not been wasted. Every tear, every prayer, every moment you chose perseverance over surrender has been seen and recorded in heaven. God has not overlooked you. He's setting up a turnaround that will transform not only your finances, but also deepen your faith for life. And when he moves, it will be sudden. One idea, one opportunity, one divine encounter can shift everything. You don't need to understand the process. You just need to trust the promise. Trust that God's hand is already at work. Trust that what belongs to you cannot be taken. Trust that even in impossibility, the way is already made. There is power in expectation. Expect God to move. Expect blessings. Expect divine provision. Expect miracles. Expectation is the birthplace of manifestation. If you expect nothing, you'll experience nothing. But if you wake up each morning declaring, God, I know you're about to surprise me, you create an atmosphere where favor finds you. Some of you have lived in survival mode for too long, praying just to make it through. But God didn't design you for survival. He destined you for overflow. God wants to take you from counting pennies to managing abundance beyond imagination. He desires to shift you from scarcity to stewardship, from survival to overflow. But you must be prepared to receive it. You cannot pour fresh blessings into an old mindset. Stop limiting what God can accomplish. If he created galaxies with a word, surely he can handle your finances with ease. This is your season to dream bigger. This is your moment to believe again. I know you faced disappointments, watched doors close, and felt the sting of delay, but don't let past pain distort future faith. God never repeats your past, he redeems it. What slipped through your hands, he can return. What was stolen, he can multiply. What was shattered, he can rebuild stronger than before. Right now, heaven is preparing you for abundance. God is aligning people, timing, and resources on your behalf. He's placing your name on hearts that will remember you. He's awakening creative ideas that will unlock new doors. He's arranging divine partnerships that will rewrite your financial story. It won't be a coincidence. It will be a command. Because when God speaks, everything shifts. So don't despise the waiting. Don't murmur through the trial. The same God who walked with you through the valley will elevate you to the mountain. The same one who permitted the test will produce the testimony. You're about to witness what unshakable faith can accomplish. You're about to experience what happens when heaven invades your finances. Stay steady. Keep your hands pure, your heart humble, and your spirit thankful. God is watching how you manage the small before he releases the greater. Be a wise steward right where you are. Handle what you have with excellence. Give even when it stretches you. Be trustworthy with what's already in your care, and God will entrust you with increase. You are one act of obedience away from breakthrough. Sometimes the key to the next door is something simple: giving when it feels illogical, forgiving when pride wants to hold on, helping another while you're still in need yourself. That's how faith works. You move first and then God moves mightier. Even now, heaven is preparing to release what bears your name. Every delay, every hardship, every setback was a divine setup for what's approaching. The blessing that's coming will make others ask, "How did that happen?" And you'll know it was God. Not luck, not a coincidence, pure divine intervention. Soon, the same account that once came up short will overflow. The same business that barely survived will thrive. The same hands that once counted coins will sign contracts. The same voice that once cried for help will speak help into others. That's the nature of God. He turns the borrower into the lender, the struggler into the blesser, the overlooked into the overcomer. Get ready, because your name is being mentioned in rooms you've never entered. Your favor is being discussed in places you've never stood. Your destiny is unfolding. Even while you're still wondering if God heard your prayer, He heard it and He's answering with power. Keep your faith burning. Keep your spirit open. Because when God shocks your bank account, it won't just be digits, it will be undeniable proof of His power, His timing, and His covenant. He's about to do it, and it will exceed every expectation. There's something holy about the silence before breakthrough. That quiet tension where faith must roar louder than fear. And right now, many of you are standing in that sacred space. You've been crying out, "When God, how much longer must I wait?" But the answer is closer than you imagine. Because when God moves, He doesn't move gradually. He moves suddenly. What took years to build can shift in a single breath when the Creator declares, "Now is the time." The same God who spoke light into existence can speak increase into your life in one divine moment. You might go to bed anxious about bills and wake up surrounded by blessings you never expected. That is the power of divine timing. But hear this: God doesn't release abundance into confusion. He prepares before He promotes. That's why He's been rearranging your life, distancing you from people who drain your faith, pruning habits that limit your growth, and silencing voices that weaken your belief. What felt like loss was really refinement. Because when God releases wealth, it's not designed to distract you. It's meant to develop you. He doesn't want to give you something that pulls you away from His presence. He wants to bless you with something that draws you closer. Something that deepens gratitude, generosity, and humility. You must realize God is not only your provider, He is your divine strategist. He doesn't just give, He orchestrates. He knows the perfect season, the perfect opportunity, and the perfect connection that will unlock doors for you. Some of your delays were actually divine shields. You thought you were ready, but God knew premature promotion could crush you if your heart wasn't steady. So He let you walk through seasons of less so you'd learn to handle more. He allowed scarcity to teach you stewardship. Because wealth without wisdom becomes destruction, but wealth directed by God becomes destiny. The secret to lasting financial transformation isn't endless striving, it's spiritual alignment. You can grind endlessly, but without God's favor, the fruit fades fast. Yet when you align with His will, even small seeds produce great harvests. One inspired idea can create rivers of provision. One divine opportunity can sustain generations. That's why the question isn't, "What do I have?" but "Am I aligned?" Because alignment creates acceleration. When your heart beats in rhythm with God's will, Your breakthrough cannot be withheld. And when God chooses to bless you, He begins with your mindset. Prosperity always starts in thought before it appears in form. If you think small, you live small. But if you think with faith, you live in overflow. God doesn't respond to limitation. He responds to expectation. Stop saying, "I could never afford that," and start declaring, if it's in God's plan, He will make a way. Stop saying, "There's not enough," and start confessing, "My God is more than enough." The moment you speak in faith, heaven gains permission to act. Too many people live beneath what God designed because they've allowed their surroundings to shrink their belief. They've been around for so long that they've mistaken it for normal. But God is saying no more. You are not created to struggle endlessly or to merely survive. You are created to reflect divine abundance, not through greed or pride, but through gratitude and grace. It means walking with unshakable confidence that your needs will always be supplied, that opportunities will always locate you, and that your life will continually overflow with purpose and peace. Don't confuse humility with limitation. True humility isn't denying your value. It's recognizing that your value flows from God alone. It's the awareness that every good thing in your life originates from His hand, not your own effort. You can be humble and still expect greatness. You can remain modest and still anticipate miracles. Because humility isn't about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less and thinking of God more. When your focus shifts toward Him, you begin attracting what you once chased. God is raising a generation of people who will carry wealth wrapped in righteousness. Individuals who use abundance not to boast but to build, not to display but to distribute, not to hoard but to help. Once you realize that money is a servant, not a master, you become unstoppable. You stop running after it and it starts running after you. You stop obsessing over loss and you start walking in divine purpose. That's when supernatural favor flows effortlessly. When your motives are pure and your mission is aligned with heaven, the greatest transformation you can make right now is shifting from worry to worship. Worry magnifies the problem. Worship magnifies God. And whatever you magnify grows. If you keep speaking about your lack, lack will expand. But if you keep declaring God's strength, faith will rise. As faith increases, fear decreases. And when fear exists, doors open. God moves through faith the way electricity moves through a wire. It carries His power into your situation. There's no financial mountain too high for Him to move. He can turn debt into overflow, turn loss into legacy, and carve a path where there seems to be none. But He asks something vital in return. Complete trust, not partial trust, not conditional belief, but total surrender. The moment you stop clinging to control, you make space for miracles. Control is the enemy of faith. As long as you rely solely on your own reasoning, you resist God's flow. But when you release it all and say, "God, I trust you even when I don't understand," heaven responds instantly. You must stop letting your emotions dictate your expectations. Some days you'll feel strong, others you'll feel weary. But faith isn't a mood, it's a choice. You choose to believe that God is working even when you see no sign. You choose to speak life when everything looks lifeless. You choose to move forward when fear tells you to freeze. That's where breakthroughs are born. Faith doesn't wait for comfort. It acts with conviction. The truth is financial miracles often begin with quiet obedience. God examines your heart before he blesses your hands. Maybe he's prompting you to give when logic says hold back. Maybe he's calling you to step out, to start, to risk, to believe in something beyond yourself. Don't ignore those gentle nudges. They're divine whispers guiding your next breakthrough. God always rewards obedience. And often the instruction that feels uncomfortable is the very key to your increase. Because faith is forged in discomfort. God is never random. He is precise and intentional. Every battle you fought carried purpose. Every door that closed shielded you. Every delay developed you. Every disappointment redirected you toward destiny. He's been orchestrating every detail, aligning every moment to lead you into overflow. What felt unfair was actually preparation. You wouldn't be ready for what's ahead without what you've endured. The pressure refined you for prosperity, and now you stand at the edge of divine surprise. God is about to astonish not just your finances, but your entire perspective. You're about to see how boundless his provision truly is. How one act of obedience can ignite a chain reaction of blessings. You're about to realize that his timing is never late. It's perfectly aligned. Months from now, many of you will look back and say that was the moment everything shifted. The day you silenced doubt, the day you chose faith over fear, the day you dared to believe again. That was when heaven began to move. Suddenly, doors opened. Opportunities appeared. Divine connections entered your path, carrying keys to your next season. Because when you move in faith, you move in rhythm with heaven. God is whispering even now, I am your source. I am your provider. I am the one who sustains you. Stop trying to figure out every detail. Stop worrying about how it will unfold. Keep doing what is right. Keep believing and expecting. God has already assigned provision to meet your needs. He has already spoken to hearts that will favor you. He has already written your name on blessings you haven't even prayed for yet. Do not despise small beginnings. That small job, that small business, that small idea might look insignificant now, but once God breathes on it, it multiplies. Seeds never resemble the trees they'll become. The miracle is always hidden in the small. Don't measure God's work by what you can see. What looks insufficient is actually overflowing in disguise. Guard your attitude in this season. Gratitude is a magnet for blessing. The more you thank God for what's in your hands, the more he can trust you with what's beyond them. Complainers repel increase, but worshipers attract it. When you rise each morning, don't say, I still don't have enough. Say, God, thank you for what I do have, and I trust you for what's coming next. That one shift in perspective changes everything. There's no limit to what God can do for a heart that believes. Faith is not passive, it's powerful. It's the force that moves heaven's hand on earth. When you believe without wavering, speak without fear, and act without hesitation, you align yourself with divine flow. That's when the impossible becomes reality. You've been steadfast in a dry season, but now you're stepping into the rain. The drought is ending. The waiting is breaking. The struggle is transforming. God is releasing supernatural provision, commanding blessings to locate you. You don't have to chase them. They're already being drawn to your life. Opportunities, favor, and unexpected increase will begin to appear not by chance but by divine design. You are not forgotten. You are not unseen. You are not behind. You are perfectly aligned with heaven's timing for what God has prepared for you. You may have assumed that the waiting season was wasted, but it wasn't. Every whispered prayer, every unseen sacrifice, and every act of faith has been building divine momentum for this very moment. And now that momentum is about to erupt into visible manifestation. When it does, stay grounded. Let success make you softer, not prouder. Don't forget the valleys you crawled through. Use your testimony to lift others higher. Tell your story not for applause, but to awaken faith. Every time you give glory to God, He multiplies His favor. The secret to sustaining overflow is humility anchored in gratitude. Let your life become living evidence that faith still works. Let others witness that trust in God never fails. Let your journey preach louder than any sermon, inspiring others to hope again. God is not finished with you. He's only beginning. The same hands that once struggled to stretch what little you had will soon hold undeniable proof of divine favor. The same heart that once felt unseen will soon overflow with thankfulness. So lift your head, wipe your tears, and stand tall in faith. God is working even now. The process you're walking through isn't punishment, it's preparation. The blessing isn't delayed, it's developing. And when it arrives, it won't be small. It will be sudden. It will silence doubt and remind every witness that God never fails those who trust Him fully. Because when God chooses to bless you, no power can block it. And when He shocks your finances, He will also expand your capacity, deepen your faith, and restore everything you thought was gone forever. What's coming won't just shift your income. It will transform your entire existence. Every believer reaches a moment where faith must outgrow logic. You've planned, calculated, and done all you could, but the numbers still don't add up. That's when God steps in. He doesn't work within human math. He creates His own equations. He multiplies where others subtract. He rebuilds where others collapse. He prospers where others see no chance. And right now, God is rewriting the formula of your life. The figures before you may look impossible, but when His hand moves, impossibility becomes inevitable victory. What you're facing isn't designed to destroy you. It's meant to display His glory. Sometimes God lets you reach the end of your strength so you can witness the start of His. He allows every human option to fade so that when the miracle comes, there's no question about its source. He wants you to testify, if it hadn't been for God, I'd still be struggling. There's a divine principle the world can't comprehend. When you trust God completely, He assumes responsibility for the outcome. When you depend fully on Him, you shift from human effort to divine empowerment. It's not that you stop working, it's that your work becomes anointed. Your hands may touch the same task, but your results will be transformed. Because when God breathes on your effort, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. And what once seemed impossible becomes undeniable proof of His power. What others may fail at, you will flourish in, not because you're superior, but because you're favored. That's why you must protect your faith as if it were the rarest treasure. Faith is the divine currency of the unseen realm, the only medium that connects earth to heaven's supply. When fear whispers, it's not going to happen, faith boldly answers, God already decreed it. When doubt murmurs, there's not enough, faith declares, my God is more than enough. When delay tempts you to grow weary, faith gently reminds you that God is never late. True faith doesn't crumble under pressure, it rises stronger. The moment you start feeding faith more than fear, your entire atmosphere begins to shift. Some of you have waited so long that disappointment has quietly settled in. You've prayed until your words ran dry. You've given until it hurts. You've believed when others stopped believing. You've watched people advance while you stood still. But hear this, your season of divine compensation is near. God never overlooks a faithful heart. What seemed like wasted years will soon turn into accelerated gain. You will accomplish in months what took others years. You will walk through doors that logic said should remain closed. Because when God restores, He doesn't just give back, He multiplies. Don't let exhaustion rob you of your reward. Breakthrough often arrives moments after the breaking point. The enemy's strategy is to make you quit right before the miracle unfolds. He wants you to think God forgot that your prayers expired, that it's too late. But I remind you, God's promises have no expiration date. They're not limited by your past, your mistakes, or your age. If God spoke it, it's sealed in eternity. You may not know the exact hour, but the hour is approaching. When it happens, it will happen suddenly, so fast it will leave you breathless. The very people who doubted you will have no explanation. Those who whispered about your struggle will witness your promotion, and they'll know it wasn't luck. It wasn't coincidence. It was the invisible hand of God aligning everything in perfect timing. God is about to do something that will silence critics and ignite the faith of those who've been quietly watching your journey. But understand this. God's blessings go far beyond material overflow. They're about spiritual growth and refinement. He'll use wealth to shape your wisdom, success to test your humility, and abundance to measure your dependence on Him. Many can trust God in lack, but few can trust Him in plenty. So stay grounded when He enlarges your territory. Keep your heart small before Him. Remember the valley you came from, and never lose the posture of gratitude that brought you here. You must understand that prosperity without purpose is nothing but emptiness. God doesn't bless you for appearance. He blesses you for assignment. Every resource He places in your hand carries a mission to build, to give, to uplift, to heal. He doesn't want wealth to own you. He wants it to flow through you. You are a conduit, not a container. The moment you begin hoarding what was meant to bless others, the flow begins to dry up. But when you release freely, God replenishes endlessly. That's the principle of divine economics. The more you pour, the more heaven pours back. Your perspective must shift from ownership to stewardship. Nothing you possess is truly yours. It all belongs to God. He is the source and you are the steward. When you handle His resources with honor and integrity, He trusts you with confidence. Financial integrity is worship in motion. Every time you choose honesty over greed, generosity over selfishness, and discipline over indulgence, you're honoring God with your wealth, and heaven responds with more responsibility. There are many who've stopped dreaming because of loss, but God is calling you to dream again. The pain you endured wasn't meant to end your purpose. It was meant to expand it. You've gained wisdom from wounds, strength from storms, and clarity from chaos. You now know what matters. You are wiser, tougher, and more discerning than before. Don't let failure define your finish. God can turn the ashes of your past into the blueprint of your future. When you start walking in sync with divine purpose, blessings begin to pursue you. Opportunities will appear from unexpected directions. People will show up carrying answers to prayers you never verbalized. That's not random. That's divine coordination. God aligns everything when obedience becomes your posture. You don't need to push doors open. Just stand in position. Favor always finds the faithful. Stop forcing what was meant to flow. Forced success fails. True success flourishes. It comes naturally when you are surrendered, aligned, and available. When striving ends and trust begins, you step into divine rhythm. And in that rhythm, everything you need begins to find you. You won't have to chase, compare, or compete, because God will orchestrate every connection, every opportunity, and every open door. Remember this, the blessing you're waiting for already exists in the unseen realm. God isn't creating it, He's cultivating you for it. When your character matures enough to match your calling, manifestation follows. Some blessings are delayed, not because God is denying you, but because He's protecting you. He will never give you something that threatens your peace or purpose. That's how deeply He loves you. And never forget, there is holiness in contentment. Contentment isn't complacency, it's peace while waiting. It's saying, God, I trust you, even when it takes longer than I planned. When your heart rests in faith, blessings flow naturally. But when you're anxious or desperate, the flow is blocked. Desperation stems from fear. Contentment grows from trust. Be content and God will add more. As you prepare to increase, ask yourself, am I ready to manage what I've been asking for? It's one thing to receive a blessing, but another to sustain it. Wealth without wisdom fades. Prosperity without purpose breeds pride. But when wisdom governs your wealth, it becomes legacy, a blessing that outlives you. The choices you make today can unlock doors for your children and generations beyond. That's the legacy of faithful stewardship, living in a way that echoes through eternity. You weren't created to merely survive. You were designed to reflect God's abundance. This isn't about arrogance or extravagance, but about walking with quiet assurance, knowing that your needs will always be met and your life will overflow to bless others. When people see you, they should sense peace instead of panic, hope instead of fear, and recognize the calm confidence of someone who knows their provider personally. And when your breakthrough arrives, let it draw you closer to God, not further away. Let every deposit remind you of His generosity. Let every open door remind you of His timing. Let every blessing remind you of His faithfulness. Never let the gift make you forget the giver, for blessings are temporary, but your relationship with the one who gives them is eternal. The moment you give God glory for every victory, every increase, every success, you keep the flow of favor alive. Gratitude is the breath that keeps blessings alive. The ungrateful lose what they receive because they stop recognizing the source. But the grateful live in continuous favor because they never stop saying, God, thank you. So lift your eyes from your circumstances and fix them on the source. Don't let the noise of worry silence the whisper of faith. God is not done with you yet. The same hand that carried you through scarcity is now guiding you toward abundance. You've endured enough to know that what's coming carries purpose, not waste. You proved faithful in the wilderness, and now God is leading you into the promised land of provision. You may not see it with your eyes, but the shift is already in motion. Your name is being mentioned in rooms of favor. Your path is being cleared for opportunity. Your obedience has set heaven's plan in motion, and soon the place where you once wept will become the place where you rejoice. God is preparing to surprise your finances. Yes, but even more, He's preparing to renew your faith, elevate your influence, and prove that those who trust Him never walk away empty-handed. When God moves, no force on earth can restrain Him. When His divine hand touches your life, everything once barren begins to overflow. The same God who fed His people with manna in the desert is the same God who can fill your account, your storehouse, and your soul with supernatural abundance. When God chooses to shock your finances, it's not just about numbers. It's about destiny being realigned, restoration being released, and divine favor being declared over your life. This is the moment when faith turns to sight, prayer turns to reality, and trust turns into testimony. But listen carefully. This is not the time to treat your faith casually. This is a sacred call to align your heart with heaven's principles, to honor God with what you have, to give when He prompts you, to forgive where you've been wounded, and to trust Him even when the numbers don't make sense. Because before God shocks your bank account, He first transforms your heart. He tests your motives, your patience, and your willingness to believe. Even when it looks like nothing is happening, and when your heart passes that test, the floodgates of heaven open wide. God doesn't bless greed. He blesses gratitude. He doesn't reward manipulation. He rewards faithfulness. And when He finds a heart that seeks Him above everything else, He opens doors no human can shut, releases provision no system can control, and turns your life into a living testimony of His power. There are seasons when God moves quietly and others when He moves suddenly. You may have been waiting for years, wondering when your moment will come, questioning if the struggle will ever end. But God often waits until every odd is against you, until the world says it's over to step in and make the impossible possible. When He surprises your finances, it's never random. It's intentional. He's proving that your increase doesn't depend on the economy, the market, or people's approval. It depends solely on His word. And when He speaks abundance, lack has no power to remain. So lift your head high. Stop speaking shortage. Stop predicting failure. Speak life. Speak growth. Speak victory. Declare that God is your provider, your sustainer, your source, and your strength. When you do, something starts shifting in the unseen realm. The walls of delay begin to collapse. Heaven starts aligning on your behalf, and angels of provision move into action. Every seed you've planted in tears, every silent prayer, every moment you chose faith over fear, it's all returning multiplied. But remember, the real miracle isn't only in what fills your account, it's in what transforms within you. When God blesses you, it's not for boasting. It's for blessing others. It's to lift, to build, to serve, and to reflect His light in the world. Because abundance without assignment is emptiness, but abundance with purpose brings glory to God and peace to your soul. So wherever you are tonight, stand firm in faith. Even if your account looks empty, trust that God is still working. Even if your surroundings feel barren, believe that He still sends rain to deserts. Even if you feel unseen, know that your name is already written into His plan for increase. The world might say you're running out, but God says you're about to run over. You are not forgotten. You are being positioned. You're standing on the verge of a release so divine, so sudden, that only God will receive the glory. Let gratitude rise before the miracle manifests. Thank Him now. Praise Him now. Believe Him now. Because faith doesn't wait to see before believing. Faith believes until it sees. And when you hold that kind of faith, God begins to pouring ideas, connections, and opportunities that lift you higher than effort ever could. He takes the little you hold and multiplies it until it overflows. So here's your challenge. Trust God enough to obey. Honor Him privately. Don't chase wealth. Chase wisdom. Don't pursue a riches. Pursue a righteousness. Because when your heart aligns with His will, wealth begins to chase you. Favor locates you. Doors open effortlessly. And one day you'll look back and realize every delay was divine preparation for a blessing, perfectly arranged in heaven's time. There will come a day soon when you'll open your account and gasp, not because of human generosity but because of divine intervention. You'll stand amazed at what God has done, knowing deep within that it wasn't luck, it was covenant. You'll look back on these very words and say, God kept his promise. So hold on. Keep believing. Keep sowing. Keep speaking abundance into existence. Because when God moves, he doesn't merely add, he multiplies. He doesn't just restore, he overflows. So lift your spirit high. Let your faith ignite like fire within you. Let your words mirror heaven's truth. Speak life over your finances, your home, your work, your purpose. And as you do, heaven begins to answer, because faith carries a sound. And when that sound reaches God's throne, he responds. And when he moves, everything in your life shifts. So walk today with peace that money can't provide, the peace that comes from knowing your source. God is your source, your security, and your strength. And when his appointed time arrives, and it will, he will shock your account, silence your enemies, dissolve your doubts, and demolish your fears. You'll stand in awe of his goodness and declare only God could have done this. Let your soul rise in worship. Let your faith become visible through your words and actions. Let your life reflect unwavering trust in him. Because God isn't finished writing your story. The next chapter will overflow with favor, increase, and divine surprises that will leave you speechless. Keep walking, keep believing, and keep expecting. For your breakthrough isn't coming, it's already unfolding. God is about to astonish your bank account. Believe it, receive it, walk in it, and let your life become living proof of his unstoppable, unshakable, undeniable power. Listen to me, my friend. There is a door you have been believing for, a door you've been knocking on, weeping over, envisioning and waiting for in silence. You've walked through seasons of uncertainty, carried the burden of delay, and felt the ache of being unseen. But I came to remind you, God is getting ready to open the very door you've longed for. Not in your schedule, not by your effort, but in his divine moment when everything aligns under his perfect design. Sometimes God postpones the opening, not because you aren't ready, but because what's inside that door isn't yet prepared for you. You've stood in the hallway, questioning if you missed something, wondering if God forgot or if your prayers were ignored. But the truth is, he's been arranging things behind the scenes, shaping hearts, shifting circumstances, and positioning opportunities your eyes cannot yet perceive. When God opens the door, no one can close it. And when he keeps it shut, no one can make it move. Every tear you've shed in the waiting was watering the seed of your miracle. Every lonely night was purifying your heart, and every rejection was guiding your steps toward destiny. Understand this. God doesn't delay to deny, he delays to develop. The door you're anticipating isn't just an opening, it's a sacred assignment, and only those who've been humbled, tested, and refined can enter it with divine wisdom and authority. You've watched others step into their blessings, receive favor, and walk through doors while you're still standing in the hallway, asking God, when will it be my turn? But here's the truth. When your moment finally comes, God will open it so suddenly that years of waiting will make sense in an instant. One move of God can redeem decades of delay. One divine shift can rewrite your entire future. So don't let the silence deceive you. Don't let the waiting convince you that nothing is happening. Behind the curtain, God's hand is turning the key, unlocking the path in ways no human could orchestrate. The same God who split the sea, who created a road through the impossible, is about to make a way for you. You've been tested deeply because your promise carries weight. The greater the calling, the stronger the resistance, the longer the wait, the grander the purpose behind it. And I'm speaking to that part of you that feels forgotten, to that whisper that says, maybe it's never going to happen. No, my friend, it will happen. The door will open, but God won't open it until you stand in complete faith. Not partial belief, not conditional trust, but faith that declares, even if it takes longer, I still believe. Even if it looks impossible, I still trust. Even if I see nothing moving, I know God is working. Because real faith isn't proven in open doors, it's proven in the closed ones. Anyone can thank God when everything flows smoothly, but it's the one who worships through silence, through uncertainty, through seasons of delay, who truly touches the heart of God. And when heaven sees that your faith remains steady, despite the waiting, that's the moment God declares now it's time to unlock the door. Some of you have been circling the same wall for years, praying, fasting, doing all that's right, and still seeing no change. But remember, the walls of Jericho didn't crumble on day one. They fell after relentless obedience. Every lap looked like nothing was shifting, but with each step something powerful was moving in the invisible. That's exactly what's happening in your life. You might not notice it, but every prayer, every act of faith, every tear you shed is shaking what's been holding your promise hostage. When you least expect it, God will move in a way that leaves you in awe. You'll look back and say, now I understand why I had to wait. Now I see why it couldn't happen earlier. Because if God had opened that door when you first begged him to, you might have walked in with pride, with unhealed pain, or with people never destined to join you. But now you've been molded by patience, strengthened by endurance, and refined by grace. Sometimes God must separate you before he can elevate you. He shuts doors not to punish but to protect. He removes people not to isolate but to preserve your peace. He delays opportunities not to withhold but to prepare you for more. Every closed door is a divine direction. Every no is simply a redirection toward the right yes. You think you're losing time, but you're actually gaining depth. You think you're stuck, but you're being strategically positioned. When God finally opens that door, it won't just bless you, it will overflow to those connected to your destiny. That's why the waiting has felt so long. The door you're about to enter carries generational significance. It's not just about your success, it's about your mission. It's about the lives that will be transformed through your story, the hearts that will be healed because of your endurance. God's openings are never for display, they are for destiny. And let this settle deep within you. The door you're praying for isn't locked, it's scheduled. God hasn't forgotten the key. He's waiting for perfect timing. If he opened it too soon, what's inside could overwhelm you. But when the moment arrives, no demon in hell, no human plan, no obstacle, and no delay will stop what he has ordained for your life. You may be standing in the hallway now, but that hallway is holy ground. It's where God strengthens your faith, tests your patience, and teaches you to worship without proof, to trust without evidence, and to believe without sight. Don't despise the hallway, for it's the place where your character matures, where the roots of your faith grow deep enough to sustain the weight of your blessing. Some of you have been crying, God, open the door for me. But God is saying, I am opening it, but I'm opening you first. He's working within you in your mindset, your humility, and your priorities. Because when He opens that door, you cannot step through it with old ways. You can't bring bitterness, ego, or fear into new territory. That's why He's been refining you, cleansing your heart, and teaching you endurance. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. The moment will arrive suddenly, faster than you imagined. You'll wake up one morning and realize the season has shifted in your favor. The door will open, not because you pushed, but because you persevered. God will whisper now, and everything will change. The favor that seemed hidden will locate you. The people connected to your destiny will appear. Opportunities that once overlooked you will begin to pursue you. Because when God opens a door, you don't have to knock twice. It swings wide and no force in existence can close it. But listen closely. When that door opens, walk through it with reverence. Remember the hallway that shaped you. Don't let success silence the lessons learned in solitude. Don't let applause drown out the still voice that carried you. For the same God who opens doors can close them if pride steps in before gratitude. Stay grounded. Stay thankful. Give all honor to God, for it wasn't your power, your influence, or your effort. It was His hand that unlocked what no man could. And to those who are weary of waiting, who feel like time is slipping away, know this delay is not denial. God doesn't move by your calendar. You move by His. You are on divine timing. Some doors take longer because they lead to greater destinations. Some promises require more patience because they hold heavier glory. If God is extending your waiting, it's because He's building something far beyond your imagination. You think you're waiting for a door, but God is constructing a palace. Don't let impatience sabotage your destiny. Don't try to force open what God has sealed. When you rush ahead, you enter rooms never meant for you. But when you wait, you walk in divine order. And divine order brings peace, direction, and unstoppable favor. The same door that's been shut for years can open in one instant when God speaks. So lift your head, wipe your tears, and strengthen your faith. You are closer than you think. The door isn't far, it's just beyond your obedience. One more prayer, one more step of faith, one more day of persistence may be all it takes for everything to shift. Don't quit now. The hallway may feel tight, but it leads to a spacious place. The darkness may seem endless, but it's only the final night before dawn. God isn't silent. He's setting the stage. And when that door finally opens, everything that once confused you will make sense. There will come a moment when every tear, every weight, every heartbreak will prove worth it. You'll see that God was never late. He was always right on time. The same God who saw your secret tears will bless you publicly. The same God who allowed you to be overlooked will lift you up and let the world see His glory through you. The same God who shut one door will open another that no one expected. You may have lost people, missed opportunities, or watched time slip away, but you have not lost God. And as long as you still have Him, your future remains secure. What's waiting behind the next door is not just restoration, it's multiplication. God never gives back the same. He always returns greater. For every year of pain, He gives overflow. For every tear, He brings laughter. For every setback, He designs a divine setup. The door you've been believing for will carry everything you lost and far more than you imagined. But prepare yourself. because when it opens, it will demand maturity. New levels always come with new lessons. The blessing you've prayed for will stretch your faith to new dimensions. The key to keeping the door open is gratitude and obedience. Keep your heart pure, your spirit humble, and your focus steady. Never forget the one who sustained you when you had nothing left. And when you walk through that door, remember those still waiting outside. Speak life to them. Tell them, I was once there too. I know the waiting, the wondering, the tears, but don't give up because God is faithful. Your story will become someone's testimony. Your perseverance will become someone's strength. That's why your journey mattered. It wasn't just for you, but for those who will follow your path. Right now, heaven is aligning everything in your favor. The key is already turning, and the appointed time is near. You can sense it deep within. Something is shifting. That restlessness isn't frustration, it's divine transition. The waiting season is reaching its conclusion. You've endured too much for God to leave you in this place. He didn't bring you this far to stop now. And hear me clearly. The waiting has never been wasted. When every door feels locked and every effort seems to fail, understand that God isn't punishing you. He's positioning you. You're not facing a dead end. You're standing before divine construction. You may not see it yet, but beneath the silence, God is orchestrating what will soon leave you speechless. While you've been pacing the hallway, heaven has been preparing the stage. And when God finally opens that door, it won't be small. It won't be ordinary. And it won't match your expectations. It will exceed them. Because God doesn't deal in partial blessing. When He opens wide. When He restores, He multiplies. When He answers, He overflows. He didn't bring you through all this to give you scraps when He's prepared a feast. But first He must prepare you to carry what's on the other side. For what good is an open door if the heart that walks through it is unready? What good is opportunity without endurance? God could open it instantly. He has that power, but His love is greater than your impatience. He won't release what could crush you. Some doors aren't locked by the enemy. They're held by God's mercy. He keeps them closed until your strength, wisdom, and faith are ready for the weight of what's coming. Because what's waiting for you is more than a new chapter. It's a divine mission, and divine missions require maturity. Many pray for blessings their character isn't yet built to sustain. God delays not to deny, but to develop. There are dreams that would turn into burdens if given too soon. That's why God hides blessings behind closed doors. Not to keep them from you, but to shape you into the kind of person who can handle them. You don't want a door to open just because you're ready. You want it to open when both you and your purpose are ready. And when that alignment happens, everything you lost will come back multiplied. Sometimes the door you've been waiting for isn't a physical one. It's not always a job, a home, or a relationship. Sometimes it's a door within, a breakthrough in your mind, peace in your spirit, healing in your heart. Because God knows that the greatest door is not the one you walk through, but the one that opens inside of you. Before He changes your situation, He will change your perception. Before He brings you out, He will bring revelation in. Because you cannot enter new places with old thinking. And that's why this waiting season feels like fire. Because it is God burning away the doubts, the fears, the attachments, and the pride. He's purifying your intentions. He's refining your motives. He's testing whether you want the blessing more than the one who gives it, because the open door is sacred. It's not meant for ego, but for purpose. When you walk through, it's not to say, look what I have, but to say, look what God has done. There are also times when God closes one door so tightly that you feel crushed by it. But remember, the same hand that shuts is the same hand that blesses. If he closes something, it's because there is something better beyond it. That closed door is not rejection, it's redirection. Sometimes God removes your comfort so that you will pursue his calling. Sometimes he takes away what you think you need to show you that he alone is enough. So if you've been praying for a door to open and it hasn't, don't lose hope. Change your perspective. Ask God, what are you teaching me here? What are you preparing me for? Because the waiting room of God is a classroom. Every delay carries a lesson. Every silence is an invitation to listen deeper. God often teaches in whispers. He shapes you not through comfort, but through stillness. You see, when you stop striving to make the door open by force, you make room for God's power to flow. He doesn't need your panic. He needs your patience. He doesn't need your worry. He needs your worship. Because panic closes spiritual doors, but praise opens them. When you praise God in the hallway, you prove that your faith isn't dependent on outcomes. It's anchored in trust. And I tell you this with full conviction, the moment you truly surrender, the moment you stop trying to force timing, that's when things begin to move. Because surrender is the highest form of strength. It is not giving up. It is giving over, giving the key back to God and saying you open it when it's right. And when you do that, he will open it better, wider, and stronger than you ever could. There are blessings that only open for the humble. Pride keeps doors locked. Impatience jams the hinges. But humility draws the hand of God. When you remain humble, thankful, and steadfast, God delights in unlocking what was once closed because he knows you will use that open door, not for self-promotion, but to bring him glory. Listen closely. Sometimes God tests your readiness by giving you small doors. First, a small chance, a small victory, a quiet answer. Don't underestimate the small opening. What begins small often grows into something extraordinary. If you can walk faithfully through the little doors, God can trust you with greater ones. If you can be consistent in hidden places, you are being prepared for public ones. And maybe, just maybe, the reason your big door hasn't opened yet is because God wants to see how you treat the small one. Will you stay diligent when nobody notices? Will you remain kind when no one acknowledges you? Will you stay faithful when your season is silent? Because those unseen moments of obedience are the keys that unlock the greater doors. Every person God ever promoted had to wait. Every soul called to greatness endured long corridors of quiet. The waiting humbles you, strengthens you, and teaches you to rely on God instead of yourself. If every door opened instantly, we would never develop roots deep enough to hold blessings once they come. So don't resent the delay. Rejoice in it. Thank God for the waiting, because he's using it to build a foundation in you that cannot be shaken when the door finally opens. What's ahead isn't fragile. It isn't fleeting. It isn't man-made. It's divine. And divine things require divine timing. There will come a moment when everything aligns. The doors that were locked for years will suddenly swing wide. People will wonder, how did it happen so quickly? But you'll know it wasn't quick. It was years of quiet faith, silent endurance, and unseen battles. It only looks sudden because God makes preparation appear like instant success. You've been hidden intentionally. God conceals his strongest warriors until the war is ready. He covers his brightest lights until the darkness is deep enough to need them. That's why you felt unseen, because you're being preserved for a moment when your presence will have the greatest impact. Don't confuse being hidden with being rejected. Hidden doesn't mean forgotten, it means protected. And when your door finally opens, it won't require striving, it will flow. You won't have to chase connections or force opportunities. Everything will align with divine ease, because what's meant for you cannot miss you. You won't need to run after your blessing. It will recognize your obedience and come find you. So keep going. You're standing at the edge of a breakthrough. The door is closer than you think. You might not hear the key turning, but it's turning. God is about to astonish you. He's about to take you from waiting to walking, from believing to receiving, from knocking to entering. And when it happens, let gratitude be your first response. Don't forget the prayers you prayed in the hallway once the door opens. Keep your heart bowed before God, because gratitude keeps doors open that pride would close. God is preparing to elevate you, but he will not open the door until you're ready to stand at the new altitude. And when he does, oh, when he does, it won't just transform your life. It will shift your entire lineage. It will unlock new possibilities for those who come after you. Because your faith today is paving doors for generations tomorrow. There comes a defining moment in every life when God begins to shift the atmosphere around you. And if your spirit is sensitive, you can feel it deep within. The air feels different. The same spaces that once felt comfortable suddenly feel confining. The same routines that once satisfied you begin to lose their meaning. That, my friend, is a divine signal, a quiet whisper from heaven that your door is near. God begins to stir discomfort, not to harm you, but to move you forward. When a seed is buried in the soil, it must break before it can bloom. You are in that breaking phase, not because God has forsaken you, but because he's preparing you to rise. And when the moment arrives, the door God opens won't just release opportunity, it will reveal identity. You'll finally see why the pain was necessary, why certain people had to leave, and why the waiting had to last so long. The door will explain the delay, because God's ways are higher than yours, and his timing far greater than your understanding. What you called a setback was actually divine strategy. You thought you were behind, but God was aligning you perfectly with his schedule. Every closed path, every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer was positioning you right where destiny could meet you. If God had opened that door before your heart was humbled, pride would have corrupted the promise. If he had granted what you asked for too soon, you might have adored the gift more than the giver. So he hid it not to deny you, but to protect you. He wanted you to discover that real peace isn't found in possessing everything, but in trusting him with everything. Because only when you release control can you carry God's purpose with integrity. Now listen carefully. Before God opens your door, he often allows everything else to fall apart. He lets the familiar faith so that you have no choice but to depend fully on him. You'll reach a moment when faith becomes your only option. That's not punishment. It's purification. When God removes your safety nets, it's because he's about to teach you how to soar. He won't let you remain bound to what limits your wings. The people who walked away, the jobs that ended, the doors that closed, they weren't losses. They were lifters. They were elevating you toward destiny. And the door you're about to step through, it's not just a new chapter, it's a higher dimension. You won't just enter, you'll ascend. You'll move in clarity you've never known before. The fog that once clouded your sight will clear. You'll finally recognize that every disappointment was divine direction, every delay was divine development, and every heartbreak was divine healing. God was never ignoring you. He was improving you. When that door finally opens, you'll step into a place that reflects your growth. Because God doesn't always give you what you ask for. He gives you what you're prepared for. That's why the waiting season felt so heavy. It was strengthening your spirit to carry the weight of new glory. There are doors that only open for the faithful, not the fearful. Only those who have trusted God through storms can stand confidently under the sunlight of blessing. You've endured enough darkness to handle the light that's coming. You've cried enough tears to cherish the joy that's on its way. But hear this clearly. Not every open door is a divine one. Some are traps disguised as opportunities, distractions dressed as blessings. That's why discernment is vital. Before stepping through, ask, Lord, is this truly from you? Because when it's from God, it won't demand you to sacrifice your peace. When it's from God, it won't drag you away from righteousness. When it's from God, the road may be narrow, but your spirit will feel wide with assurance. The peace of God is always the compass of His will. If you must compromise your integrity to enter, it's not your door. But when it is your door, everything about it will testify. Timing will align, provision will appear, resistance will crumble, and your soul will know this is it. You won't have to chase, force, or manipulate, because God's doors don't need pressure. They open through purpose. And when they open freely, powerfully, and unmistakably. So prepare your heart. God will not pour new wine into old containers. He won't open a new door for someone still clinging to old wounds, grudges, or mindsets. You can't carry bitterness from your last season into the brilliance of your next. Forgive, release, rise. Let go of what wounded you, because what's ahead will heal you. Don't let yesterday's poison contaminate tomorrow's promise. The same hands that broke you won't be the ones that bless you. God Himself will restore what was lost in His timing and His way. You are standing at the edge of transformation. The key to your next door isn't in your hand. It's in your heart. It's your faith, your patience, your surrender, your unwavering belief that God can do the impossible. Doors don't open for the impatient. They open for the prepared. The real question isn't when God will open it. It's, will you be ready when He does? Because when the door opens, there won't be time to get ready. You must already be ready. That's why He's been refining you now, stretching your faith, enlarging your capacity, and testing your obedience. The hallway was your training ground. The tears were your lessons. The silence was your shaping. You've been in divine preparation, learning endurance, humility, and strength. Because beyond that door, you won't just survive, you'll lead. And when you finally walk through your door, walk gently, walk gratefully, and never carry arrogance with you. Remember the valley that shaped you. Remember the nights that nearly broke you. Remember the God who held you together when everything else fell apart. For the door is not the final destination. It's the beginning of a far greater mission. The blessing is not the finish line. It's the assignment. You've been chosen not just to enter, but to serve, to influence, to build, and to lift others higher. God isn't simply opening a door so you can prosper. He's opening it so you can fulfill divine purpose. This moment isn't about recognition, and it's about responsibility. It's not about being noticed. It's about being commissioned. When God elevates you, it's never for applause. It's for impact. He promotes you so you can pull others up. He blesses you so you can become a vessel of blessing. The real test of an open door is revealed in how you treat others once you've walked through it. Will you extend your hand to those still waiting or close it behind you? Let your victory become another seed of faith. Let your breakthrough stand as proof that God remains faithful. Speak encouragement to the weary. Remind them their door is also approaching. For God never runs out of openings. He has limitless doors, limitless ways, limitless possibilities. If He did it before, He can do it again. If He opens for them, He can open for you. The key is faith that refuses to die in the hallway. Listen carefully, beloved. This is the point where understanding must become action. When God opens a door, it's not just a physical threshold. It's a divine summons to step into destiny, to embrace calling, to live in the fullness of everything He's been shaping within you. Many will see your door open and call it luck. Others will name it coincidence. But you, the one who waited in the dark, who trusted when trusting hurt, who worshipped when there was no evidence, you will know it was only God who made the way. Walk through it knowing that nothing in heaven or on earth can remove what He has ordained for you. Don't enter rashly. Don't rush the sacred. The open door is holy ground, a place where faith meets fulfillment. You've been standing, praying and believing on the outside, but now God calls you to step forward in courage. Boldness isn't arrogance, it's obedience. Boldness isn't presumption, it's trust. When you walk through this door, do it as one fully convinced that God goes before you, that every step is ordered and every challenge already accounted for. Prepare your heart to receive beyond imagination. The blessings behind this door won't just add to your life, they'll transform it. They'll confront old patterns, expand your thinking, and push you beyond comfort. God doesn't give His greatest gifts to the passive. He gives them to those ready to steward them with integrity. That's why patience was vital. The delay wasn't denial. It was divine conditioning. God was strengthening you to sustain what's about to come. So understand this when you step through. Expect resistance not from God, but from the very forces that try to keep you from destiny. Enemies of peace, fear, doubt, and distraction will rise to test your hold on faith. But do not be intimidated. For the same God who opens doors is the one who empowers those who walk through them. Challenges will come, yes, but every obstacle beyond this threshold will serve as proof that God's strength is perfected through your obedience. The open door is not merely, it is a battlefield where faith overcomes fear. Hope silences despair and divine promise outweighs human limitation. And never forget, your door is distinct. No one else can enter it for you. No one else carries your key, your preparation, or your appointed timing. Stop watching others' doors. Stop comparing, questioning, or envying. Every person moves according to divine sequence, and God's timing is flawless. What He's planned for you is not late. It's precisely aligned. And when it finally opens, you'll understand the wisdom behind every pause, the purpose behind every tear, and the precision behind every delay. Do not drag fear into this new chapter. Fear is the thief that drains the joy from divine promise. If you cross through trembling, you restrict what God can release in you and through you. Step forward boldly, for boldness honors God. Step forward confidently, for confidence in Him becomes your armor. Step forward expectantly, for expectation, fueled by faith, draws divine fulfillment. God doesn't open doors for hesitant hearts. He opens them for hearts that are ready, refined, and steadfast beyond sight. And remember this: every blessing that lies beyond the door requires action. Do not confuse waiting with inactivity. Waiting in faith is movement. It's prayer, persistence, and preparation. When God opens, He opens for movers, not for watchers. Your hands must be ready to build, your heart prepared to lead, and your spirit willing to serve. The open door is not the conclusion, it's the divine beginning. It's where destiny roots itself, where legacy begins to bloom, and where influence is birthed. The God who opens doors also equips the one who steps through. You will not enter empty-handed. Your mind will be sharpened with vision. Your heart will be fortified with courage. Your spirit will be filled with discernment. You'll perceive what you once couldn't see, understand what you once couldn't grasp, and walk roads you never imagined possible. The open door is not just an opportunity, it's illumination. God Himself will light your path, and no shadow can stand against what His power reveals. Do not lose sight of the purpose behind your perseverance. God's timing has been preparing more than your door. It's been preparing you, your character, your endurance, your spiritual sight. You are being positioned not only to receive, but to multiply, to influence, and to uplift. The same God who was faithful in your hidden seasons will be faithful in your harvest season. He will not just bless you, He will use you as a channel of blessing for others. The door is never for selfish advancement. It exists for divine impact. So as you step through, release the old, release the pain, the disappointment, the fear, and the regret, and walk freely into the future God has been crafting for you all along. Do not carry yesterday's burdens into tomorrow's blessing. God opens doors to move you forward, not to drag the weight of your past into your future. This new season demands a renewed mindset, a refreshed spirit, and a heart anchored fully in trust. Walk freely, walk faithfully, walk expectantly, and walk with gratitude. Grasp the magnitude of what's about to unfold. The open door is a declaration of God's faithfulness, a testimony of your endurance, and proof that the prayers whispered in silence, the tears shed in solitude, and the faith held in darkness were all seen by heaven. God is turning, waiting into witnessing, longing into living, and hope into harvest. The door isn't merely an entry, it's an altar of fulfillment, a stage of destiny, a gateway to divine glory. So, beloved, as you stand before it, lift your eyes and lift your heart. Step forward with courage and humility, with confidence and reverence. For the same God who opens doors is the one who sustains every step you take. He will guide, protect, and prosper you. He will honor your faith, multiply your obedience, and bless your endurance. And when the door swings wide, when blessings overflow, and when your heart is full, you'll know beyond any doubt it was God alone who made the way. The season of waiting will fade. The hallway will be behind you, and you will walk into a life perfectly aligned, divinely timed, and richly blessed by His hand. No force in heaven or on earth can block what God has ordained for you. His promise is alive, His power is real, His favor is yours, and the door you've been waiting for, it's about to open. And when it does, everything destined for you will rush in with unstoppable force. Stand firm, keep believing, keep preparing, keep expecting. For the hand of God rests on the door, and your breakthrough is closer than you imagine. The season of delay is closing, the season of fulfillment is beginning. Step through with faith, with courage, with full assurance that it is God Himself who has opened the way. And now, beloved, hear this final truth. God is faithful. He is sovereign. He is the author of your journey, the keeper of your purpose, and the one who holds every key to every door you've prayed for. Every moment of waiting, every hardship endured, every tear shed in silence. It was all divine preparation for this very hour. The door you've desired, the opportunity you've longed for, the breakthrough you've believed in, it's not fantasy, it's fulfillment. Step boldly, for the same hand that opens will also uphold you. Move fearlessly, for the God who prepared the path has already gone before you. Advance expectantly, for his plans are flawless, his timing perfect, and his power unshakable. As you enter this new chapter, remember your faith carried you, your endurance positioned you, and your trust in God brought you to destiny's threshold. Do not hesitate. Do not let fear, doubt, or pride keep you from what heaven has designed. Lift your eyes, your heart, and your hands in praise, for the open door is more than opportunity. It is evidence of God's faithfulness, a witness to his power, and a declaration of his glory. Walk through it as a living testimony that God is alive, that he is good, and that he rewards those who wait with steadfast faith. The door is open, the way prepared, and the God who promised will not fail. Step forward, beloved, and receive the fullness of all he has ordained. His timing is perfect, his provision abundant, and his favor will follow you all the days of your life. The waiting is over, the breakthrough is here, the door is open, and it is God alone who has made